Good evening, everyone. My name is Ernie Singleton, and I am the president of the Baton Rouge Sigma Alumni Chapter. And I want to welcome you to this virtual food safety class. As we embark on another football season and where people will be cooking outside, barbecuing, and doing all the things, enjoying all the things, sports, and being outside in this warm weather, we need to realize that we need to be safe with the food that we are eating and providing to our family and friends. So I look forward to hearing from the students in the dietetic internship program at Southern University as we learn about food safety. And I want to give a huge thank you to our chair of our Physical and Mental Health Committee, Monica McDaniels, as she worked with our colleagues at Southern University to present this particular webinar. And we look forward to hearing from the presenters, as well as those of you who are participating as participants. Please make sure you put any comments in the chat if you are on Zoom. If you are on Facebook, also put comments in the chat. And if you are on YouTube, we are streaming on those two sites, and so that we can get as this information far and wide to everyone. So I'm going to turn it over to Monica McDaniels so that we can get this program going. Thank you and welcome again.
Good evening. I'd like to take a moment to introduce our speaker for this occasion. Her name is Mrs. Jameer Stevenson, and she is very well versed in food service management with many years of experience. She is currently a Southern University dietetic intern so that she can get the credentials that would associate her as being a subject matter expert. And I'd also like to introduce tonight the Southern University Dietetic Internship Director, Alexis Motley, who is her pedagogue at this time. And we appreciate the partnership and look forward to hearing the wealth of knowledge that will be shared on this evening. So won't belabor the point. We'll get Jameer to go ahead and share her screen and get started. Jameer?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Monica, for that great introduction. You always believed in me. Again, I am Jameer Wilson Stevenson. I am one of the dietetic internship participants, and I want to present to you guys food safety. We know that you guys are getting back into a football season and cooking outside like Ms. Singleton shared at first. And also we appreciate you guys for assisting us help and reach out to the students here on Southern University campus. So we want to make sure that everybody is safe and do our very best. I'm going to share with you a PowerPoint, if I can get it up. Okay. All right, so we're going to talk about the safe food handlers, workers, and contamination. Workers can introduce bacteria, viruses, and parasites into food and beverages. Worker contaminate food, by working with sick people, touching pimples or sores, touching your hair, not wearing Band-Aids, single-use gloves over sores or wounds, and not washing our hands properly. Some of these things we do without thinking about it. You know, your leg itches, we're gonna hurry up and scratch, or you may feel like you have an itch in your hair, and we do those things unconsciously, but they can introduce bacteria and viruses in our food. So I'm gonna ask a question. We all know how long it takes to wash our hands. It's the 20-minute rule. We usually use the ABC song or the happy birthday song, but those things, although may seem childish, Those are things we can do to make sure that we're washing our hands for a long enough time to rid ourselves of those bacteria and viruses that we can introduce to our food. Basics of hand washing. Number one, we want to be able to have access to a working sink, a hand washing sink, and want to make sure that that water is up to temp. We're not trying to scald you, but we want to make sure that water is at least 110 degrees. Well, you say, well, I may not know what 110 degrees is, but it's usually your normal everyday warm water. We also want to make sure we have access to liquid soap or a bar of soap. I usually like liquid soap or some type of foam soap because bar lather, but other people come behind. So I'm a stickler about liquid soaps. We also want to have something to dry our hands with, something that is disposable. I know at home sometimes we use our fancy towels, but we want to make sure that when we're working with the masses, that we have something disposable that we can throw in the trash can. And remember, when you're leaving out of a bathroom or if we're leaving out of a door, use that towel that we just dried our hands off with and use it to open access to the next door you're going to. I have something in the chat. I'm sorry. Good evening.
You can keep going. Don't worry about the chat right now.
Okay, gotcha. A lot of people use alcohol wipes or sanitizer. That is not approved in the kitchen. So we want to make sure that we are not using it. But if all else fails, we want to make sure if that's the only thing we have, we do use it. But that is not something that we want to make a habit of. Proper hand washing. Here you see a visual. We're using the soap, the liquid soap. We're going to lather our hands up. We're going to use the warm water. And there you see a disposable towel that the person is drying their hands off with. Always wash your hands. Well, you say, when do you wash our hands? We're going to wash it after we use in the bathroom. If we sneeze, cough, if we grab a cup that we're drinking, after changing jobs. So if I am cutting raw meat and I'm finished with cutting the raw meat and I want to change to cutting carrots for a soup, we want to make sure that we're changing our hands as well as our gloves. When we're switching again between raw and ready to eat food, after handling the trash, after handling dirty equipment and doing other food preparation. Again, sometimes we do things unconsciously, in a hurry, in a haste, but we want to make sure that we're always washing our hands and that lead the forefront of our minds. Again, antiseptics I do not recommend, but the FDA has certain antiseptics that they use. Make sure that we read the label to make sure it is approved if we just have to use the antiseptic. Our fingernails. I know as ladies, we love to have our flashy nails. They become a part of us. But when you're handling food, we ask that you not use acrylic nails. Fake nails usually hold more debris, which holds more bacteria or those parasites that we can potentially introduce into our food. So make sure that we're aware of that. Keep your nails trimmed, your natural nails trimmed and filed down. And workers cannot wear fingernail polish. So even though I don't have the nails on, we can't wear the fingernail polish because we introduce outside organisms into the food when the fingernail polish is chipped. We want to make sure that we're remembering to cover all wounds, cuts, and sores. You may think that because you have a glove on that you're fine, but we want to make sure we're using proper protocol to cover those wounds. We want to use a Band-Aid. If the Band-Aid becomes soiled, we want to make sure that we change our Band-Aids. We take the gloves off, change the bandage, rewrap, and then wash our hands and put the glove back on. again, those soiled items and your cuts can introduce bacteria into the food. So we want to make sure that we are not doing that at all costs. Our single-use gloves, we want to use non-latex gloves because latex may cause allergic reactions to some of the food or the people that are consuming the food. We want to make sure that we change our gloves. You will slip your hand through the soiled glove. If you guys can see me, you slip your hand through the soiled glove and remove it. Take the other glove and do the same. You don't want to take the gloves off by the fingers. We want to make sure that we're using gloves when we're touching raw items and ready to eat items as well. Workers' clothing. Clothing can be a source of contamination, so all food workers must wear a clean hair restraint and clean clothes. Your hair restraint is your simple hairnet. Also, your clean clothes. You don't want to have anything that's soiled on already. So we want to make sure that we take care of those. While preparing food, workers cannot wear jewelry on their hands and your forearms. I work in the cafeteria at the school district, and I have seen many of times where a wedding stone may pop out into a food item, or I have on a pearl necklace and the pearls break and they fall into the food. So we want to make sure that we're aware and conscious of those items. If at all you need to wear a wedding ring to show that you're married to your wonderful husband, please utilize a band. Bare hand contact. Remember that we are never to use our bare hand to contact any ready-to-eat food, any raw fruits and vegetables, any baked goods, canned foods. Canned foods, snacks, or beverages. We can, if we're, say for instance, we're cooking chicken, we can utilize our hands to season chicken, but you want to make sure that I would suggest that you wear a glove, but if you don't have gloves, that item goes through a cooking process, which heats up the food enough that those bacteria or parasites can die, but we don't want to make a habit of that. Reporting foodborne illnesses, this is not something that is directly related to you, but I do want to speak on it. If you are sick, if you're not feeling well, if something doesn't seem right with your body, please do not cook food for others. We want to make sure that we're not cross-contaminating, giving somebody else any of our illnesses. Again, you are excluded from work or you're restricted to a certain project if you are not feeling well. If you are exhibiting any of the following: vomiting, diarrhea, or jaundice, again, those are excluded workers. We do not want you here. We love the volunteer. We love for you guys to go out and celebrate and cheer on those Jaguars. But if you are not feeling good, please, ma'am, take care of yourself. Okay, when we're working with food, we want to make sure that we are never smoking, chewing gum, eating food. Why? Well, if we're chewing gum, the gum can fall out of our mouth, saliva can fall out of our mouth and be introduced into the food that we have. Again, with the smoking, those carry bacteria, and you don't want to eat because your germs become contaminants to other food. So if you have to drink something, you have to eat something, we ask that you step away from whatever project that you're doing, and then you consume your items, you come back, again, you wash your hands, you glove up, and then you can proceed. Okay, so here we have an example of something that is wrong. Here, there's a cup that is sitting on a prep area. We want to make sure, again, that if we have to consume something to drink, we step away from the prep area. We go outside, we go to a hallway, we go into another room, we consume our items, and then we can return. I am having a bit of, okay, there it goes. Animals, if we're preparing food at home, we want to make sure that our animals are not around. Animals tend to jump on counters. They tend to want to beg, and dog lovers, we get sad. We want to give them a treat, but that's not necessarily sanitary. So we want to make sure that our animals are not around food preparation. All right, that is the end of, I'm sorry. Okay. Chapter 1, providing food safety. And I'm going to pause if anybody has any questions, or if the chat needs to say something, we can pause and before we start the first chapter.
I don't think you had any questions. I had a few interesting comments about some new information that your listeners are learning. But it may be a good time to launch that pre-test.
Okay, we can do so.
Tech team, could you launch the pre-test to see how much our audience has learned this thus far? If you would take a few moments, if you can answer the questions. It's about 5 questions, so you can use your scroll bar to scroll through and answer the questions. We'll give you a few seconds to take care of that. There is a question from Ashley Johnson, and she's asking, what is the best material for cutting and chopping boards?
Hey, Miss Ashley. I usually use non-porous, a non-porous cutting board. You don't want anything that once you chop something or cut something, usually porous or things like wood, they seep into the crevices and can yield bacteria. So I would stay with hard plastic cutting board, if that answers your question. In most industrial kitchens, there are cutting boards that are color coordinated, and usually those colors mean we utilize it for a certain product. So a green cutting board would equal our vegetables and our fruit. A red cutting board would equal protein and meats. So that is another way that you could specify what you're using your cutting board for.
Miss Edna Cozy is asking, is there a problem with using glass cutting boards?
Ms. Cozy, no ma'am, there is not a problem with using glass cutting boards, but they may break.
And we have about 47% who've completed the pre-test. So I'll ask a few more questions from the chat. What about wooden utensils? What are your recommendations for wooden utensils?
Yes, ma'am. You can use wooden utensils, but I suggest that if you use those when you're cleaning, you boil your wooden utensils to get all of your debris, and anything that could later be used as a contaminant.
Great questions tonight.
Yes, I love it. And you guys are helping me to ease my nerves a little bit.
You're doing great. So we're about 61% of our attendees who have completed the pre-test. So do you want to go over the answers at the end, or do you want to kind of go over these answers now?
We can go over them at the end.
Okay. So
All right.
I'll give a few more seconds. Okay, the poll has been up for about 5 minutes and we've ended. Okay, thank you for your responses. We'll go over the answers at the end of the session, so you can move forward, Jameer.
Yes, ma'am. So providing food safety. Here our objectives are to recognize the importance of food safety, understand how food becomes unsafe, identify the TCS foods, recognize the risk factors for foodborne illness, and understand the prevention measures for keeping food safe. Challenges to food safety. A foodborne illness is a disease transmitted to people through food. We talked about that earlier, making sure that we're limiting any kinds of cross-contamination. An illness is considered an outbreak. Two or more people have the same symptoms after eating the same food. An investigation is conducted by the state and local regulatory authorities. The outbreak is confirmed by laboratory analysis. Most times, those confirmations come through sample plates that we hold on to at the entity in which we are preparing the food. Challenges to food safety. Time and money. We waste money and time when we're preparing things that are not edible. Language and culture, literacy and education, pathogens, unapproved suppliers, high-risk customers, and staff turnover. Cost of foodborne illness to an operation. We don't have an operation, but it does cost once we buy food, even at home, but we're buying food for a mass tailgate, for our pantry, and those students, your friends, your family cannot eat that food. We lose our reputation. One of the things Dr. Motley prides herself on is that pantry, and we want to make sure that we are giving students safe food that they can consume in the pantry. Negative exposures. We don't want any media exposure that doesn't present Southern in the best light. And then we don't have to worry about staff morale, but those are some things that happen in the food business. Also, lawsuits, legal fees, and again, we don't have to worry about the staff portion. Unsafe food is the result of contamination. There's three types of contaminants. Those are biological contaminants, chemical contaminants, and physical contaminants. Biological contaminants are a product of viruses or parasites entering the food. Chemical is when we have our cleaning products too close to our food. So if we're spraying down bleach and we're spraying bleach too close to food or so forth. And then physical contaminants, we talked about those nails earlier, or the rhinestones from your nails or your diamonds from your rings. Those are considered physical contaminants. Biology contaminants, we talked about the bacteria, the virus, the parasites, and the fungi. Here's another list of your chemical contaminants and your physical contaminants. There you can also see that bandage. So remember, when we have sores or cuts, we cover with a bandage, but then we also cover with our gloves. How food becomes unsafe. 5 risk factors for foodborne illness. Purchasing food from an unsafe source. So we don't want to go to the meat man on the side of the road because he's probably been out of there for a while. And if he doesn't have a refrigerated truck, the food is the temperature is increasing. Also, failure to cook food correctly. If we don't cook food to temp, holding food at an incorrect temp. We've cooked the food and it's been sitting out, but it's not holding temp. Using contaminated equipment. We talked about those cutting boards. That's another example of that. If you have a porous wooden cutting board and we've cooked meat on it, and then we're going to come back and do our raw vegetables, well, we may have washed it off, but those things have pores and those pores soak. So that's another risk. And practicing poor hygiene. How food becomes unsafe again. Time and temperature abuse. Again, we talked about those cross-contamination. Here you can see a picture of raw chicken, and then we have ready-to-eat lettuce. Poor cleaning and sanitizing, so we're not wiping those tables down with the correct solutions. And hygiene. When food has stayed too long at a temperature, good for pathogens to grow. So if we have outside at our tailgate, we have potato salad, and in Louisiana, we know it's hot. So we want to make sure that we're putting that potato salad on ice. And when that ice melts, we're putting it back on ice. We can't just let it sit out. Food has been Food has been time temperature abuse when it is not cooled properly. So, hey, we have that potato salad and we notice that it's getting too hot, so we just shove it in the refrigerator. Or if we're cooking a gumbo outside and we just shove it in a refrigerator and we're not allowing it to cool properly. And we're not reheating it to a high enough temperature to kill those pathogens. When pathogens are transferred from one surface of food to another. Again, you see that picture of that chicken and that raw lettuce. We want to make sure that we are doing our very best to not cross-contaminate ready-to-eat food with raw product. That can also happen in your refrigerators when we're storing raw chicken or raw meat above ready-to-eat foods, because the drippings from the chicken can leak down into those foods, and then we introduce bacteria. Contaminated ingredients are added to foods that receive no further cooking. Ready-to-eat food touches contaminated surface. A food handler touches contaminated food and then touches ready-to-eat food. And contaminated cleaning cloth touches food contact surface. So if we have a spill on the floor and we use a towel to wipe the floor, we can't come back and use the same towel to wipe our tables. Poor personal hygiene can cause a foodborne illness when food is handled. Failure to wash your hands correctly after using the restroom. Here we go again with the coughing and the sneezing. Those things are not conscious. You know, we sneeze, we're back at it, but we have to remember that it stays on the forefront of our minds, so wash your hands. Working while you're sick and touching a scratch or a wound and then touching food. Poor cleaning and sanitizing. Equipment and utensils are not washed, rinsed, and sanitized between use. So at home, we may wash our dishes, and then we rinse them and we let them dry, or we take a towel to dry them. That is not the best practice when you're sharing food or cooking food for the mass. You can let air dry after you use water that is above 120 degrees, or you want to use a sanitizer solution. We don't want to take a towel to dry off any dishes. Food contact surfaces are wiped clean instead of being washed, rinsed, and sanitized. We want wiping clothes or cloths, are not stored in a sanitizer solution. So even though we have our towels and we're wiping our tables down, we don't want to just lay towels around because you don't know who picked them up. You don't know who else has used it for something else. So we want to make sure that we're storing those towels in a solution, whether that solution is bleach and water or it's a quaternary solution. CCS foods. Those are your raw items, such as your eggs, your fish, your poultry, your milk, your cheese. Also, your food items that are ready to eat. Ready to eat food is food that can be eaten without further preparation, washing, or cooking. So, an apple, a banana, carrots, watermelon, those things are ready to eat food. We can also have ready to eat cooked foods, such as our chicken that we have that's in the grilled chicken that's in the bag that's already cooked, your deli meats, your cookies, your spices, your seasonings. These people have a higher risk of getting a foodborne illness. We talked about the elderly, our preschool age children, and people with compromised immune system. Focus on these measures: controlling time and temperature, preventing cross-contamination, practicing personal hygiene, purchasing food from approved, reputable sources, not buying off the side of the road, and then cleaning and sanitizing. Training and monitoring. We don't have to train staff, but those of you who are the expert in food safety, we want to make sure that we're documenting that we've talked to people about how to properly wash their hand, how to set up sanitizing solutions, and so forth. And here are our governing agencies that render those rulings down as far as our hand washing and sanitizing and food safety. Food, forms of contaminant, I'm sorry. Objectives, biological, chemical, and physical contaminants, and how to prevent them, how to prevent the deliberate contamination of food, how to respond to a foodborne illness outbreak and common food allergens, and how to prevent reactions to them. Contaminants come from a variety of places. We talked about having our pets around food, which is not recommended. Air contaminants, water contaminant, and dirt. People, whether it's deliberately or accidentally. People can contaminate food when they don't wash their hands, when they're sick and they show up to prep food, while sneezing and coughing, and touching dirty food contact surfaces. We talked about microorganisms, which are small living organisms that can be seen only with a microscope. So we don't always see what we're introducing into our food. Pathogens, harmful microorganisms. They make people sick when they eat. And toxins, which is poison. There are 4 types of pathogens that can contaminate food. We have our bacteria, we talked about viruses, parasites, and fungi. Common symptoms of foodborne illness: diarrhea, vomiting, fever, nausea, abdominal cramps, and jaundice. Onset times depend on foodborne illness and can range from 30 minutes to 6 weeks. I am going over this just because I want you guys to know. We know that you guys wouldn't show up like that, but just to be in the know and what to look for when you're talking to others or when you're around other cookouts. Bacteria can be found anywhere, cannot be seen, smelled, or tasted. So just because it tastes good doesn't mean that it's not a bacteria is not present. They grow rapidly, and how do you prevent it? With controlled time and temperature. FATTIM, we're talking about food, acidity, temperature, time, oxygen, and moisture. Those are all things that bacteria need to grow and to multiply. When talking about food, most bacteria need nutrients to survive. TCS foods support the growth of bacteria better than other types of food. Bacteria grow best in food that contains little or no acid. So if we're talking about tomato sauce is something that is high in acid, which means bacteria is less likely to grow in it. But something like a yogurt, per se, bacteria can grow rapidly in. Temperature, bacteria grow rapidly between 41 and 135. That range we know as the temperature danger zone. So if your food is below 40, your cold foods, that's a good range. And if it is above 135, that's a good range. But anything that lies between those two temperatures, we are putting ourselves at risk. Bacteria need time to grow. The more time bacteria spends in the time temperature zone, the greater chance it has to grow. So we want to make sure that if our foods are too warm, that we chill them as best as possible. And if they are not warm enough, we want to reheat it to the proper temperature. Oxygen. Some bacteria need oxygen to grow, while others grow when oxygen isn't there. Moisture. Bacteria grows well in food with high levels of moistures. So our fruits that contain a lot, that hold a lot of moisture, our spaghettis or our pasta sauces, those things hold a lot of moisture. So we want to make sure that we're watching that. The conditions you can control. You can always control time and temperature. The FDA has identified 3 types of bacteria that causes severe illness and are highly contagious. Salmonella, which is usually found in your chicken or produce product. Shigella, I'm sorry, I always get messed up with that word. And I'm sorry. I'm not, but you see that fancy word. I always
Enterohemorrhagic. Enterohemorrhagic.
Thank you, Ms. Monica. Major bacteria that causes foodborne illness. Food linked to bacteria. We talked about those ready-to-eat foods and those beverages. Exclude food handlers diagnosed with an illness caused by salmonella from the operation. Again, we're going to wash our hands and cook food to our minimal internal temperature. Food linked with bacteria. Food easily contaminated by hands, such as salads containing TCS foods, potato salad, tuna, shrimp, macaroni, and chicken. We want to exclude food handlers there as well that are sick, exclude handlers who have diarrhea from the operation. Food that has made contact with contaminated water, such as produce. Want to remember that we're going to wash our hands and then discard those items. Control flies inside and outside of the operation. We want to try our best to keep those doors closed. And if you can, operate in a place that has an air curtain or a constant air that flows by the door so those pesky flies do not enter. Here again, we have our ground beef, which is raw or undercooked. Contaminated produce, exclude food handlers who have diarrhea or have been diagnosed with a disease from the bacteria. Cook foods, especially ground beef, to minimum internal temperatures. Purchase produce from approved reputable supplier. Prevent cross-contamination between raw meats and ready-to-eat foods. Location, carried by human beings and animals. Those viruses require a living host to grow. They do not grow in food and can be transferred through food and remain infectious in food. Sources, food, water, or any contaminated surface. Typically occurs through fecal oral routes. So through our hands, putting our hands in our mouths, and so forth. Destruction, not destroyed by normal cooking temperatures. Good personal hygiene must be practiced when handling food and food contact surfaces, making sure we're not scratching open sores and thus forth. Quick removal and cleanup of vomit is important. The FDA has identified 2 viruses that are highly contagious and can cause severe illness. The norovirus, which can typically be like a common cold, and hepatitis A. Food handlers diagnosed with an illness from hepatitis A or norovirus must not work in an operation while they are sick. When we're using ready-to-eat food or shellfish, we want to exclude those staff or those personnel who have been diagnosed with hepatitis A from the operation. Exclude staff who has jaundice from the operation. Again, washing hands and avoid bare hand contact with ready-to-eat food, and purchase shellfish from an approved reputable source. We want to exclude staff who have been diagnosed with the norovirus as well. Any signs and symptoms of diarrhea or vomiting, we want to exclude. Washing hands, again, we want to avoid always bare hand contact, and purchase your shellfish from a reputable source. Parasites, basic characteristics. They require a host to live and reproduce. Sources are seafood, wild game, food processed with contaminated water, such as produce. How do we prevent it? We purchase food from approved reputable suppliers, cook food to require minimum internal temperatures, and fish that will be served raw or undercooked must be frozen correctly by the manufacturer. We won't know if it was, we won't know if it was correctly frozen by the manufacturer, so that's why we encourage people to buy food from reputable sources. Fungi, yeast, mold, and mushrooms. Some mold and mushroom produces toxins, poison. Throw out molded food unless mold is a natural part of the food. The only time mold is a natural part of the food is in our cheeses. I know sometimes, and I can shamelessly say with my grandmother, we would see bread and it would have mold on it, and she would say, cut the mold off of it. Well, that mold spirals in deeper pores, and so that's not always a good, or it is never a good practice to do. If you see mold, we want to throw it away. Also, remember, when you're in doubt of anything, we want to go ahead and discard those items. We want to purchase mushrooms from approved reputable suppliers. Biological toxins. Origin: naturally occur in certain plants, mushrooms, and seafood. Seafood toxins produced by pathogens found on certain fish, tuna, bonito, and mahi-mahi. Histamine produces when fish is time temperature abused. Occur in certain fish that eat smaller fish that consume toxins. So we talk about the barracuda, snapper, grouper, amberjack, and Sigaratura, toxin is an example. Illnesses. Symptoms and onset times vary with illnesses. People will experience illnesses within minutes, so it doesn't take a long time. General symptoms: diarrhea, vomiting. Neurological symptoms: tingling in your arms and your legs, flushing of the face, difficulty breathing, and heart palpitation. Certain type of kitchenware and equipment, items made from pewter, copper, zinc, and some types of paint can cause chemical contaminants. Cleaners, sanitizers, polishes, machine lubricants, and pesticides. I know when we're cleaning our stainless steel and we don't wipe it all up, those are ways that we can introduce chemical contaminants into our food. Deodorizers, first aid products, and health and beauty products, our hand lotion, our hairsprays, our makeup, they're all chemical contaminants. Symptoms vary depending on chemical consumed. Most illnesses occur within minutes, and your vomiting and diarrhea are typical symptoms of chemical contaminant. Prevention: only use chemicals approved for use in food service operation. Purchase chemical from approved reputable suppliers. Store chemical away from your prep area. I know we may be using our Clorox wipes to wipe down a table, but that same Clorox wipe we may use to wipe a cutting board, and we don't let it air dry, and so then we introduce another chemical contaminant to our food. Chemicals must never be stored above food. If at all possible, have you a small desk, a pull-out desk, or a cabinet where you can put all of your cleaning supplies. Use chemicals for their intended use and follow manufacturer's direction. Prevention: only handle food with equipment and utensils approved for food service use. Make sure the manufacturer labels on original chemical container. We don't want to take a bleach container and store vinegar, although we've washed it out. We want to make sure that whatever that product is on that label. Keep MSDS current. That is a book that tells you what to do if those chemicals are ingested or inhaled. We want to keep that book current and follow the manufacturer's directions and local regulatory requirements when throwing out chemicals. Physical contaminants: sources, common objects that get into your food. We talked about fingernails, but also bandages, staples, glasses, jewelry, dirt, wood, and metal shavings from our cans. Naturally occurring objects such as fruit pits and bones. So even while cooking or deboning your chicken, you can find a bone in your famous casserole that is considered a physical contaminant. Symptoms: mild to fatal injuries are possible. Cuts, dental damage, and choking, bleeding and pain. Prevention: purchase food, again, from their reputable source. Closely inspect food received. Take steps to prevent physical contamination, including practicing good personal hygiene. Groups who may attempt to contaminate food. That's a part of our deliberate contamination Unfortunately, the world that we live in right now, we have to be concerned with people being deliberate about making us sick. So those are those terrorist or activist groups, gruntled or current friends, vendors, and competitors. FDA defense tool is alert. And we'll share with you what alert means. Assure, look, employees, report, and threat. Make sure products receive are from safe sources. We want to look at it. We want to monitor the security of products in the facility or in your kitchen, knowing what's coming in and what's going out. Know who is around you, know who is cooking with you. Keep information related to food defense accessible and develop a plan for responding to suspicious activity. Responding to a foodborne illness outbreak. We want to gather all the information. We want to notify any parties that any and all parties that need to be notified. We want to exclude the product from serving. So we want to take the potato salad off the line or the chicken off the line. Document that information somewhere safe within your organization and review your procedures. If we have to, we need to make sure that we're cooperating with authorities. Gather information. We want to ask the person for general contact information. Ask the person to identify the food that they ate. Ask for a description of the symptoms and ask when the person first got sick. Again, we want to notify our authority, if any. Segregate the products, set the suspicious product aside if any remains. Include a label with do not use or do not discard on it for testing purposes if we have to go that legal route. And then again, document that information. We don't have staff here, but we want to identify those persons who are responsible for cooking it. And then we want to interview them immediately. Provide appropriate documentation, determine if standards are being met or if we have to reconsider. Food allergens, a protein in a food or ingredient some people are sensitive to. We know about our peanut allergens, our soy allergens. We want to make sure that all parties that are involved in consuming those items that they are aware of what lies in that product. Allergen symptoms, we can see nausea, vomiting, wheezing, hives, abdominal pain, swelling, and those people who are allergic to food items. Symptoms can become serious quickly. A severe reaction called anaphylaxis can lead to death. So making sure that people know what's in our product and knowing the right thing to do afterwards. So maybe we're using an EpiPen, that person has an EpiPen, or that person needs some type of medication such as Benadryl or so forth. We have a list of common food allergens: milk, egg, fish, seafood, wheat, soy, peanuts, and tree nuts. Anytime you are cooking with those items, I suggest that we have some type of sign on those products that say those products contain some allergen or some possible allergens. Service staff, we want to make sure that everybody that's around, we are aware of their allergens. Some allergens, aware of their allergies. Some allergens don't have to be ingested to have someone have a reaction. So making sure that if you cannot smell seafood, if you cannot touch seafood, that we kind of stay away from those items. Kitchen staff, avoid cross contact. If you're using or frying fish in grease, we don't want to come back and fry the chicken in the same grease. We want to wash, rinse, and sanitize cookware, utensils, and equipment after handling any allergens. Wash your hands and change your gloves as always. Prepare food for customers with food allergens in separate area from other food. Label food package on site if we're selling anything. All right.
And I
We're gonna
think we
stop for
have,
any questions.
yeah, we have some questions and comments in the chat. So the first question is, can you speak a little bit more? You talked about wiping and drying with towels versus a disposable towel. Can you kind of go over that in a little bit more detail for us, please?
Yes, ma'am. So your normal dish towel has pores in it, and anything that is porous holds on to bacteria and viruses. So when you're washing your products, I'm sorry, when you're washing your utensils or your equipment, we want to make sure, if at all possible, that we use a sanitizer and we allow those items to air dry. Air drying is the best and safest way to prevent any contamination.
And there was a comment that's very timely. Ashley said that she purchased some possibly contaminated snow crab from a grocery store yesterday, and she noticed that a weird smell, and it was slimy to touch. So I'm assuming she discarded it, but she probably avoided some very bad symptoms.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
And again, that goes back to purchasing items from reputable sources. I know I spoke about buying items on the side of the road, but that can be from a grocery store too that is not reputable. We have mom and pop stores that pop up everywhere, and sometimes they can be sketchy. So make sure when you are buying or you're purchasing your products, you're coming from one of those mainstream stores. If not, vet them. See who else is buying from them. See if there's any other issues. We have social platforms right now, so if it's on a social media page or a platform and they're saying something, chances are it may be some smoke somewhere.
Then we transition into the moldy bread. I think there was a lot of chatter going on in the chat about moldy bread, because just like you said, it's something, mama said, just cut that piece off, go and eat that. So there were some recommendations, and one that I think we would align with is to either refrigerate or freeze the bread
Absolutely.
to preserve the yeast, because that's what the problem is. The yeast is staying warm sitting on the counter. But yeah, one of the ways to prolong the life of a loaf of bread is to store it in a cooler area.
And grandma and mom, they lived a long time with what they said, right? But I always say you're safe until you're not, right? And so we don't want to ever experience the not part of food safety. We want to always err on the side of caution.
And Miss Edna Cozy said, is it true that you should not reheat food more than 2 times?
I'm gonna lean on my director because I don't personally, but I don't have a concrete answer for that. So Dr. Motley, can you come off of mute?
I know she was in the car. She may be driving.
And if not,
But the recommendation is that you do not continuously reheat food, because the more often you reheat, you degrade the properties of the food, and you are opening yourself up to contamination with the continuous reheating. So yes, the rule of thumb is not to continuously reheat the same food over and over again. I'm going through the the
I'm
chat.
having some technical difficulties, so you can proceed. I'm just trying to get my slide back up.
Okay. Ashley is asking if you observe unsafe food handling practices also in a restaurant, how do you address it without causing an issue or offending someone? I
The
would
climate. Okay, go ahead.
go ahead, Jameer.
The climate that we live in, it's kind of almost impossible to not offend people. People take things so personal. But at the end of the day, you have to share, you have to tell them. Of course, we want to manage what we say and how we say it. But you can also reach out to other sources, like the state sanitation. Um, they can help assist getting that corrected, because ultimately you don't want anybody to be sick, just like you don't want to be sick. So share.
Yeah, I would recommend speaking with the manager and letting the manager know that you're unsatisfied. I would recommend, depending on the restaurant, just asking, either for a refund or just returning the food. If that becomes confrontational, yes, most definitely contact your local sanitarian in the parish so that they can go and investigate that restaurant. Restaurants are licensed and they are routinely evaluated for sanitation. So if it is reported, there's an obligation for them to investigate, and that takes you totally out of the equation.
Absolutely.
Going back through a few more. Ashley Riley is asking, does everyone have a particular order for cooking? For instance, fresh fruits and vegetables and raw meats last, etc. What's your recommendations on that, Jameer?
So there's no particular way to prepare your items, but I will say I would cook the item that takes the longest first. And then as far as making sure that you're managing cross-contamination. If you have some raw products that you're preparing, I wouldn't try to simultaneously cook ready-to-eat foods.
And Shayla Reed is asking, should we use different cutting boards for raw meat and fruit slash veggies?
It is not a mandate, but it is a suggestion. Yes, ma'am. Even at my house, I have two different cutting boards that I use for ready to eat foods and my raw foods. In bigger entities, like I said earlier, there are different colors of cutting boards for certain things. So you have a red cutting board for your meats and your produce. You have your green, you have your white, and I think it's a yellow, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, doke. And I think Ashley is asking about scores. She said it'd be cool if restaurants had their scores posted, like in New York. And the grades are not posted at the restaurants, I don't think, but they are posted on the Louisiana Department of Health website.
Yes.
It used to be posted like in alligators or something like that. But I know that if you want to know which restaurants are safe, you can go onto their website under the sanitarians webpage, and you can get the last evaluations that were conducted at those restaurants. So it is public knowledge in Louisiana as well.
Any other question?
I think that's it. Did you get your slides to come back up?
Yes, ma'am. I am trying to get back to where I was.
Okay. Good questions.
I love it.
Give us a few seconds for our slides to get back queued up and we'll resume. Let's see. I'm still going to the chat. Let's see. Cozy is saying sometimes people select food from the fridge in the store, change their minds about the product. Instead of returning the food to the fridge, they place it in an area of convenience. A worker comes along, picks it up, returns it to the fridge. A consumer is not aware of this, so inspection and smell is important. I know that there is no way to detect this. We must just trust our judgment. I have worked retail before in they call that reshops.
Mm-hmm.
So when just say, someone puts a raw pack of meat on the counter on the shelf with the cereal in a grocery store and walks away from it. There are employees who are responsible for going through the store and picking up those reshops. And there are employees who inspect those things. So some of it is, put back on the shelf. A lot of it is not. Just to kind of, soothe your minds about that there is a process in place in all stores for reshops. So you can fairly trust the process. There are, the human error does happen. But yeah, just be vigilant and inspect your food before preparation. That's always key.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
Stephanie is saying, I got a few more questions while we were waiting.
Okay, no
Say
problem.
there's mold in your stainless steel container, cup is stainless steel. Can you use bleach or Clorox to sanitize and reuse, or should you throw away?
You can reuse your stainless steel cups. Again, you want to wash and sanitize those items.
Yes. Just like a stainless steel sink, when you clean chicken and you sanitize it with the bleach solution, it's the same working principle with that stainless steel cup. Thoughts on pickles? Here's the controversial stuff. The thoughts on pickles and ketchup, fridge versus pantry. What do you say, Jameer?
Oh, I say fridge. I know my mom is a stickler about that, right? I don't want cold ketchup, but your bottle say refrigerate. So refrigerate.
Yeah, actually, ketchup does spoil, and that's, in my former life when I was waiting tables at Ryan's restaurant, I learned this. So actually, ketchup does spoil and should be stored in the refrigerator. If you like room temperature ketchup, you need to sit it out, let it get room temperature a little while before use, but for long-term purposes, it is really best. The quality is best from the refrigerator.
Keep
I
it
got a
out of
lot
your
of pantry folks
cabinet.
in this chat, Jamia, a lot of pantry folks.
Keep it out of your cabinet.
And the same working principle for pickles.
Mm-hmm.
The quality is best refrigerated, but I know a lot of people prefer the room temperature.
You don't want a cold pickle, but just take it out a little earlier before you really have to eat it and put it in the bowl and sit it out.
Yep. So yeah, they got a little banter going in here with fridge versus pantry. So we're gonna let them go through the banter, and you can go ahead with your presentation, Jamia. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for the comments and interactions, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, this is some things we don't have to go through. I'm just gonna bypass that. And okay, so that is the end of my presentation. So wow, I know we took an hour, but it was a lot of information. I can actually share this with you, Miss Monica, just in case there are some other ladies that want to know more about it. And I also have a few handouts, Miss Monica, that I'm going to share with you, just to keep at the forefront of our brains when we're preparing things, when we're trying to get ready for those Southern University tailgates. And we can upload the ending poll at this point.
Okay, so Cozy just asked for her post test. So it's time to launch the post test.
Let's see. And I hope I did a wonderful job to where you guys are aware.
You should see the post test.
Yes, it's oh,
Okay.
Miss Monica, can anybody see it? I don't see it changing.
Yeah, I'm trying to determine. Let me know in the chat if you can see the post test. Because they may just be answering. Yes, so that they're
Okay.
they're thinking deeply.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Eddie, you don't see yours. You may want to minimize your screens. It may be sitting behind your video screen if you don't see it.
And no worries if you don't see it or you don't have enough time to answer. We're gonna go over it. I'll review the answers for you guys.
Okay, I see some completed tests popping up now because it won't show until they've completed answering all the questions, all 5 questions.
Okay.
Yeah, see some answers rolling in now.
Mm-hmm.
We have a comment from Chandra Davis. She said, "Great job, Jameer. She is now motivated to clean out her fridge."
Yay! But let's say if I can help one, I've helped you all.
Yeah,
And make
sometimes.
sure when you're cleaning that fridge out, we make sure that that raw meat is at the bottom or in the freezer, so we don't have those drippings, even when
Yep.
we're thawing our product.
Sometimes we'll have science projects growing unintentionally.
Mm-hmm.
It happens. Life happens.
Yes, yes. My daughter seems to think that the coldest part of the refrigerator is at the back, so she keeps everything towards the back. And by the time I'm finding it, it's a different color and it's crusted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes,
So I
our
definitely
niece
understand.
science projects.
Right. And I said, girl, you're embarrassing. I do this for a living.
Yeah. And yeah, Ashley, the fingernails, I never liked sculptured nails, because of my profession. I rarely get my nails done. It's very rare. Um, thoughts on, let's see, from Jonquel, any thoughts on where milk and eggs should be kept in the refrigerator?
Uh, I usually keep milk and eggs right next to my ready to eat food because those items, especially with the eggs, is shelled. So there's little to no way you can cross contaminate.
Usually for eggs, the textbook recommendation is to put them on one of the lower shelves in case they crack by mistake and they won't drip onto the rest of your food. And let's see, what are your thoughts on oysters?
Right now I'm not eating oysters just because of um the news and the possible bacteria contamination in oysters. So please be aware. There is a not bacteria, I'm sorry, there is a virus that has consumed the oyster.
Yes, there is currently some caution around consuming, especially raw oysters at this time. Let's see. Yeah, jewelry, wearing no jewelry in the kitchen is a thing, Ernest. Yeah, it's supposed to be very modest, if any at all. Yeah, oysters are a big deal right now. Life altering. Ashley's asking about eating cookie dough and cake batter as a child. You know what?
Raw egg.
Yeah, and
You
I did
don't want
it.
to.
I must admit, yes, that was a highlight of my childhood. And when you
Well,
don't know any
and
better, God
that's
will
a
take
part of
care of
that.
you.
It's okay until it isn't, right?
Yeah,
It's
it's
a part of
okay until
those.
you know better. So
Yeah.
I dare not do that now.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, sometimes a little bit, right?
No.
And then one of the things like the cookie dough ice cream was a big thing, and they said, well, they say don't eat cookie dough, they put it in ice cream, but all of those cookie doughs don't have the raw egg in it. So
Right.
if that gives you a little bit of solace, you can eat some cookie dough ice cream.
Yeah, they those the new dough doesn't have the raw ingredients, so it's considered to be safer. There's a
Mhm.
question about sushi, in particular raw sushi. What's your take on raw sushi at this point, Jameer?
Me personally, I am not a fan of any type of sushi, even raw sushi, especially raw sushi. But um, at any time, consuming raw items um, can pose the potential threat. We want to make sure that whenever we're consuming those items, that they are from a reputable source that has taken the proper protocol in making that food item safe.
Okay. And here is a food service 101 question for you, Jameer. What is the normal internal temperature of what is it supposed to be? I think that's what the minimum max temperature for your refrigerator is the question from Kendra Hendricks.
Okay, so your refrigerator at minimum should be 32,
Mm-hmm.
and your freezer is 0 and below.
Yep.
Y'all really making me jog my memory today.
That's we're working it. We've had 23 responses from the post test. So you want to spend
We can
a little
review.
time going over those answers?
Yes, ma'am. So the
Okay.
first question says, list 3 key steps you can take to prevent cross-contamination in the kitchen. We talked about wearing our gloves properly. We talked about washing our hands and not using, not cross-contaminating contaminating ready-to-eat food with raw food. So those are 3 key steps. Number 2 is that at what minimum temperature, internal temperature should ground beef be cooked at? This is not something that we went over in extent. We did talk about the food temperature danger zone, which is at 41 to 135. But internally for beef, that temperature needs to be 155. So kudos to you guys who got it right, and to all who are trying. 3, true or false? Hand sanitizer can replace hand washing before handling food. The answer is false. We do not want to use hand sanitizer. There are some specific hand sanitizers that are FDA approved, but we do not encourage the use of hand sanitizer over washing hands. 4, what is the correct way to cool a large pot of soup before refrigerating it? The answer, we're going to divide into a shallow container. We're actually going to allow it for 2 hours to sit, to cool down, and then we're going to refrigerate. And that reduces spoilage. So the answer on the quiz should be divided into shallow containers and refrigerate. And 5, why is it important to use a thermometer when cooking meat, poultry, or seafood? We want to get that internal temperature to make sure that we are cooking that food item properly.
Okay.
Any other questions? Any other concerns? Well, at this time, I would like to thank you guys for listening, and giving me some feedback, and sharing your thoughts and your questions. I appreciate each and every one of you guys, and I'm going to turn it back over to Ms. McDaniel.
Well, thank you all for coming in and learning a little bit about food safety. Hopefully this will carry you for a lifetime and help your family stay healthy and strong. And if you have additional questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us at pmh@brsigma.org. And we'll also be sharing the information that Mrs. Stevenson has for us regarding the more detailed information regarding food safety. So we appreciate being your guinea pigs and being your audience. You did a wonderful job. And thank you to Mrs. Motley for giving us the opportunity to work with the Southern University dietetic interns.
Thank y'all.
All right. Everyone have a great evening, and thanks for your attention and time. Take care.